Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. Today we have a very special guest. Arthur Kenegis is president of Future Wave Inc., a nonprofit organization dedicated to shifting our culture of violence to a culture of peace. He is the director producer of The World is My Country, about the amazing adventures of world citizen number one, Gary Davis. Prior to producing the feature-length documentary, he produced the award-winning short film on the same subject, One, the Gary Davis Story, and wrote an award-winning screenplay for a narrative feature as well. Before that, Kanegis produced War Without Winners, narrated by Paul Newman and filmed by Haskell Wexler, a compelling TV documentary on the nuclear war issue. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Arthur. How are you doing today?
A real pleasure to be with you, Egberto. Looking forward to your show.
Absolutely. So, but anyhow, let's go ahead and get busy about. Tell me a little bit about yourself first. What got you into doing documentaries of this nature?
Well, when I was working on actually doing the War Without Winners film with Paul Newman, we also got the opportunity to do to help with the film the day after. I was just a researcher on it, but I was there in Washington, D.C., and when they were building the sets, and they said, okay, 1 mile from the epicenter, what's it going to look like? I'd go over to the Pentagon, do all the research, and fax it out to them. It was before we had email. We'd fax back and forth.
Right.
And I woke up with nuclear war nightmares. I mean, I would wake up and say, usually you can say, oh, there's not really monsters under the bed, but there were monsters under the bed and all around us, and we could be destroyed in a moment's notice. And I just started to get paralyzed with fear. And I then thought back to what a song we'd sang when we were in first day school in Quaker meeting, and it said, there's an ocean of darkness, and I drowned in the night till I came through the darkness to the ocean of light. And the light's forever, and the light makes us free. I'll dwell in the glory of the light, said he. And what struck me about that is the deeper you dig into almost any area, you get to think, if you thought that was bad, it's worse than that. And if you thought that was bad, it's 100 times worse. And if you thought that was bad, wait till you hear this. And you can drown in that. And at the same time, all around the world, people are helping each other, reaching out. I'm in Rotary, all over, we're helping people get glasses, vision, people helping dogs get spayed and neutered, people loving their kids, there are flowers growing, oceans out here, and there's an ocean of light. And I decided that I wanted to dwell in that ocean of light. If what we imagine helps create our reality, then why do we keep imagining only horrible things and wondering why we're not getting to the positive future? And I decided to dedicate my life to films that gave us a vision and hope and the joy of experiencing moving into the positive future that we the people can create in the people-powered planet.
I love the little sign behind you. And what you said is so profound. I remember watching The Day After, and that movie, it made you upset because these are all things that are controllable, things that you have control over, that doesn't have to be that way. So I enjoyed that. Now, when you talk about,
what you said. I love what you said about control over, because that's the key. I mean, some things, the meteor hits us. Okay, maybe there's nothing we can do about it, but there's no reason why we have to so stupidly get ourselves in a position to destroy our own planet. And you see this picture, Wizard of Oz, that right. Gary used to love, the guy who did the movie about, used to love the Wizard of Oz, because she kept thinking, oh, the high and mighty wizard's going to save us. I've got to find him. And he turned out to be this guy behind the curtain. And she realized the power wasn't her all along. She just had to click her feet together. And we just have to click our minds to thinking of ourselves as world citizens. And we can rise above these nation states and these divisions that are dividing us. And we, the people, do have the power to create the beautiful people-powered planet of our dreams. And that's what the movie Gary Davis, The World is My Country, is really all about.
Before we get into that, though, because I want to give, we are a political show that give a whole lot of context to a whole lot of stuff. And what you just said was ever more profound. And I want to mention this when we talk about having control, when we talk about not only thinking about, when you talk about the sea of darkness, as opposed to why not look at the sea of light? We are in control. We can determine whether we have a sea of darkness or whether we have a sea of light. I think that is a focus, that is a tunnel vision that we ought to have. The reason the planet is in a condition it is not because of the masses, but because of the few who control the masses, the few who are instantiating things that create all the problems that we have. So there are so many permutations to what you've said that
Yes.
I think if you make more movies about it, if you make more movies that people want to watch about it, it'll enlighten them. One of the things we do here is we try to get people to get out of the indoctrinated state that they're in within these countries and start
Yes.
thinking more broadly. And I think it's great what you did. You centralized this particular project of yours on Gary Davis.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Gary Davis first, and then we'll expand on that.
Excellent. Well, Gary started off, all he wanted to do was to make people laugh. He was a song and dance man on Broadway. And he got in the chorus of Let's Face It. And he got to stand in when Danny Kaye got laryngitis. He got to stand in for the great Danny Kaye in the golden age of Broadway. And he got 13 curtain calls. People couldn't believe this kid on his way to a Broadway career. Boom, World War II. He's in a bomber plane. He's bombing the city of Brandenburg, and his own brother is killed. And he says, my God, why am I killing other people's families and brothers just because they're on the wrong side of some invisible line that I can't even see from the air? This is insane. And he gets home, sees footage of Hiroshima, says humanity is in trouble. But what can I do? I'm just an actor. And then he gets this brilliant idea. He goes to Paris, where the United Nations is meeting, and with Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre, all these famous intellectuals, he ends up interrupting a session of the UN and pulling off this grand act of political theater that rivets war-weary Europe. 20,000 people rally with him at the Velodrome on December 9th. And the very next day, the 10th, the Soviets, who for years have been blocking the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, step aside and let it get passed unanimously. So it's an incredible story about a man who was a citizen of no nation, only the world, and the incredible adventures he had with, and for instance, Einstein said that Gary grasped the key to whether humanity will die by its own hands or continue to exist.
Now, as I understand it, he was drafted into the army. He flew B-17 bombers. He bombed a few towns, etc. And there's something about his brother being killed, giving him that catharsis, if you will. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, okay, so he's this B-17 bomber pilot. It was an incredible plane that could get through all kinds of flak and keep flying. And he had he was gleeful about bombing Peenemünde, the war plants of Hitler. But when he was ordered to bomb Brandenburg, something snapped, and it happened because his own brother had been killed at Salerno, and his heart was broken. And he was just his brother was like almost like a dad to him. He was an older brother, and his dad had been on the road. He was a big showman with the Meyer Davis Orchestra. Played for 11 different presidential balls, all the way from Hoover, Kennedy, and so on. And this was a catharsis for him. I mean, imagine the pain that you've just blown all these people up in their schools and factories. He said, why wasn't I arrested for that? Why weren't the people who killed my brother arrested? And he came to an incredible realization. He said, inside every country on the planet, it's illegal to murder people. Outside, it's not. There's no law at the global level. I can murder somebody, I can get a medal for it. This is crazy. Inside a country, like when we had a domestic act of terrorism, like when Tim McVeigh blew up the federal building in Oklahoma, they didn't retaliate against the Michigan for harboring the Michigan militia. I mean, it's a criminal justice thing. He thought, well, my God, if we can create, world courts, if we can have a governing system for the world, we can outlaw war. But then what about how we see the horrible, terrible things governments do? And he says in the film, does world government scare you? He says, well, it does me too. If it's that same old, forces of power and money, the new world order. But that's happening, folks. That's the That's the corporations and money acting globally. You see, originally in Jefferson's day, the corporations were under the people. They got a 20-year charter. If they didn't serve the public need, it would get revoked. People could control them. But because we're locked in those boxes called nation states and they're operating globally, they said, oh, you try to control us, we'll move to another country. You try to control our pollution, we'll go there. You try to tax us, oh, no, no, please stay here. We need your jobs. And so they got to be on top. They got all the power and money. They pick our politicians. They run the world. But every constitution and the Declaration of Independence that Gary realized says it is the right of the people to govern. It is the right of the people to institute government. The Declaration says the will of the people shall be the authority of government. Similar words all over say that we're supposed to be in charge. And where are we in charge globally? Can we elect anybody to go to the UN? Can we vote for anybody? Do we have any say in at all at the global level? No. So what are we going to do? Wait for them to give it to us? Did the people who put out the declaration say, "Oh, please, England, won't you let us be a country?" Well, there's not an application for independence; it's a declaration, for God's sake. So you don't apply; you just do it. And Gary said, just like Dorothy, who clicked her feet together, we just have to realize we're the ones with the power, and we, the people, get together and build a whole new interactive system. Not win-lose democracy, Gary advocated, but something he built around, Buckminster Fuller's geodesic sphere idea, something where we're all on top of that sphere, that whole new organization kind of chart way of doing it. And in little like Zoom meetings like this, but with tools that bring us together, you get Arabs and Israelis in the same Zoom, and red states, blue states, whatever. And you have this toolbox of interactive, revolutionary conversations, finding out what's people's real hopes and needs, what do they want, bring them together and coming together with a consensus of what we, the people, want in building the planet we choose. And so it's a powerful vision and a powerful spark for inspiring us to start thinking about how to create a better way to run our world. And that's what drew me to want to do this incredible movie.
Well, I mean, that is excellent to have Martin Sheen be the one that is help promoting the movie. I think it's on PBS this month, correct?
Yes, it's on public television stations across the country. Each local station is doing it at different times and places. There's over 50 stations so far, and there's more coming every day. If you go to theworldismycountry.com and click on, well, you'll see the button right at the top, public TV. It shows you the ones that are already playing it, what their times are, and so on. And also how, if you don't see your city there, how you can help get it there. We just had, for instance, in Vermont and in Albuquerque, we had stations that when they got a lot of interest from the local community and people involved, especially if people want to run local spots about their organization during it, they've jumped on board to show it. So we'll let you know how you can be part of the community support your stations want. They don't want people lobbying them to do things, but they do want to know they've got community support.
Well, I mean, that is so important. I mean, I want to go back to something you mentioned, because what you talk about nation states, you talk about when McVeigh blew up a building, nobody says, let's go bomb Michigan. But if somebody from Saudi Arabia or somebody from Eritrea comes here and they bomb something, we go blow without looking at the consequences of what we do. Makes a whole lot of sense. We have to remember Davos. You made a very important point. The corporation used to be below the people. Now they're above the people. In fact, they have something called personhood, which means they are a super person.
Boy, yeah.
They're a super person, and they operate out. I mean, not they operate. They congregate in Davos, where they run the world. So we already have a one world government. It's just that it's controlled by a very few. What we're talking about is government where we, the people, are all in control. And a lot of people think that is utopia. The next book I'm writing is called I'm almost done with it right now. It's called How to Make America Utopia. And it really should be, in the long run, how to make the world utopia. And the thing that people don't understand is, go back to what you're saying here. It's a matter of getting to people in these different manners that you spoke about, via Zoom, via getting congregations between Israelis and Palestinians, between the red and the blue. All of these are false divisions created to keep a few in power. And that's one of the reasons I don't get mad at my opponents. I'm a left winger. I don't get mad at my right wing brothers. I embrace them.
Yes.
And in listening to you and watching you, I see that that's the same modus operandi that you're following, which I think it's important. Look, we're getting close to the end of this things. Usually I ask a lot of questions, but somebody like you, it's not necessary because you promote it all in your narrative. So I appreciate that. But what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't ask you?
Why don't you ask me about our People Powered Planet podcasts, where every week people can tune in?
Well, tell me. Well,
Okay.
you don't have to tell
Every
me to ask
Wednesday.
you. You go ahead and you throw it out there, brother.
Every Wednesday at 10 a.m., we have a People Powered Planet podcast where we bring in guests like you who've been thinking about this. How do we build this better world? We're looking for solutionaries. And I want to hear about your new book, because maybe you're just kind of the kind of solutionary we want to have on our show. And just go to peoplepoweredplanet.com and you'll see you can sign up for a weekly club, or you can try it out free and just come join us in helping to find the solutions to the problems of the world that start with we the people, as you mentioned, and take our power back. We the people on the planet. We are the superpower. That's why they like to keep us divided and in these separations. The more they can divide and separate us and get us mad at each other, that's how they stay in power. But once we the people come together, you know what's going to happen? They're going to at a certain point stop fighting us and say, "Oh, we want to join you." They're going to put out ads. We're part of the People Powered Planet. We want to support you. We want when they fight like they fought seatbelts, tooth and nail. But when they had to do it, then it's put out in all their ads. We're all for it. So we the people have to take back our power. They're only doing that not because they're bad, evil people, but because money is forcing them. The monetary system is forcing them into that. We have to start evolving a new economy, a new circular economy, and we the people are the ones to do it.
Arthur Kenegis, president of Future Wave and director of the Gary Davis story, and the new film is called?
It's called The World Is My Country. The World Is My Country.
The World Is My Country. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely.
Maybe on our show.
Absolutely. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.